So another day passes. We get the fact that our Congress and our Senate, they're working hard for us to avert a government shutdown. Spending your money, working hard to ultimately let you down. Today, let's talk about the minibus or the omnibus bill that just passed, full of pork. And it should be such an embarrassment to quote unquote conservatives, because there's a lot of quote unquote conservatives that voted for it that this doesn't represent us at all. Let's talk about it today, because remember, this is your money. This is your money that they're spending. And the thing you got to ask yourself, these wonderful conservative representatives like we have, who needs Democrats? Because what has been proven is we have no one representing us. Let's jump into it. Today's video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. This is our last day in Oklahoma, and it's been a beautiful one. Look at that lake. It's absolutely gorgeous. We're seeing the sunset over it, and I've had a phenomenal time. Hopefully, if you missed the Okie Homesteading Expo, you will catch it next time it comes around. But I'm ready to get back to South Mississippi, so we're going to be hitting the road in the morning. So thank you so much for watching us each and every day. Thank you so much for supporting us, commenting below. If you are new to the channel, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It helps us, of course, spread our message across this platform. Our goal is to work together to build a wiser, more common sense approach to homesteading, to sustainable living, and to guide our families through the crazy world we live in. Now let's talk about today the story of the omnibus bill and how Speaker Johnson has been a huge letdown. So the Senate just passed this bill, again, overwhelmingly supported by Democrats and actually a lot of those quote-unquote conservative senators. Now, it didn't start there. It started with the Congress. Speaker Johnson breaking all the laws, not allowing everyone to read the bill, giving it to them like 2 days or 3 days before it's actually voted on, and this thing was huge, full of pork. You know what's so funny? This was more pork in this bill from Democrats and Republicans than what a lot of bills that the Democratic-led Congress passed. Actually, more than even McCarthy sometimes passed. So Johnson, who was supposed to be this populist, Trump-supporting conservative, is ultimately a joke like all the rest of them. A sellout, man. I'm telling you, a lot of these guys, I was talking to a gentleman today. He was from Texas, and he talked about Gonzalez, talked about Crenshaw, and he said, you know, all these guys were so great. And even talked about Cornyn. He said, all these guys were so great. And the longer they stay up there, the more quote-unquote seasoned they got, the more polished politician they become, the more they let us down. And that's, again, why I push for term limits. I think term limits would solve all that, because it would allow people not to fatten their own pockets and be so selfish in some of their voting. It would actually start really being a representation of Americanism and their constituents actually want. So let's go through this bill just a little bit to show you what we're spending. And this goes along with adding trillions to the deficit and really going further into debt as a nation and putting us into a financial ruin. So you had 3 days to read a bill that was 1,012 pages. Did anyone actually read that bill? Doubt it. 74 to 24 votes, of course, for the Senate, and it was like 101 Republicans that supported it with the Democrats on the side of the Congress. So now it's going basically to Biden's desk. It'll be signed. So it adds to the fact that, you know, every quarter we're adding about $1 trillion. $1 trillion of spending already, not counting this bill. But we're going to talk about exactly what they've put in this bill. Not all of it, but majority of it. Now, there was something that was released also that was scary from Garland. Well, no one read the bill, so they didn't know what was in it. But the AG said something too that I think we're gonna it's gonna surprise you. Actually, I don't think it's gonna surprise you, but I believe it's gonna make you say, ah, there's where it is. So they tell you all the great things they're helping. They're helping lower child costs in Head Start. They're helping to protect workers and their paychecks with informants to labor laws. They spin all that. But let me tell you what's actually in this that your conservatives voted for. Some of the things they voted for. Over $2 million to an Oregon clinic to provide hormone therapy for children. $850,000 for a gay senior housing in Massachusetts, $400,000 for a Briar Patch Youth Services in Wisconsin that helps with gender-affirming clothing, $400,000 for a program in the Garden State for quality educational funds to promote biological boys playing in girls' sports. Now that's what was in this bill. That's what was in this bill that your conservatives, quote unquote conservatives, supported because they didn't want to have a shutdown. So we need all this money spent. Basically, Johnson broke the Hastert rule. He did so much wrong and put so much pork in this bill that basically what's in this bill is actually more money spent on things that we necessarily don't need. Honestly, we don't need a lot of this. If we would have not spent this and went back to the table to negotiate a true bill to cover our government, it should probably be a third of this, truly. In this bill, $200 million for a new FBI headquarters. $200 million for the FBI, who's doing such a phenomenal job. So it's amazing, amazing. You hear conservatives, they preach against all this and ultimately support it. Representative Norman from South Carolina said, described the bill as complete and utter insanity to support it. It's so much wasteful spending that it's almost unbelievable. $500 million to Jordan, the country of Jordan, including $150 million border wall for Jordan. We're building the border wall, people, but not for us, for Jordan. And Jordan borders, you know, all the areas such as the West Bank and Israel and all that area. They're getting bombarded with all this stuff. So we got to protect their border. So let's go ahead and give them a border wall for $150 million. Right after this bill finished too, the Justice Department launches a National Extreme Risk Protection and called it an Order Resource Center. The launch of the Extreme Risk Protection Resource Center will provide the partners across America valuable resources to help keep firearms out of the hands of individuals who pose a threat. Now, who is the people that pose a threat? And who are the people who decide who the threat is? So now we're putting this new resource into hands of liberals and leftists from Attorney General Merrick Garland to decide who is deemed worthy to bear arms. The establishment of this center is the latest example of the Justice Department's work to use every tool in a landmark bipartisan decision to promote and help gun safety and no more violence. Does that sound like they are actually giving help to your freedom or maybe hindering your freedom? It's amazing. We send these people to Washington to make more laws, more regulations, and to spend our money instead of actually, quote unquote, leading. They don't represent us. I honestly believe if they allowed votes on the border, you'd have 75% of America voting to pass a border bill. If they allowed voting on extra spending of all these pork projects and you put it to a true democracy, they use that term all the time, democracy vote where everybody votes, you would see that nobody wants to spend money that we don't have. You're spending our money, and that's what causes more inflation. So you wonder why your groceries cost way too much and you can't buy a house? Because your government, both parties, are not representing America. All they're doing is printing money that we don't have to give to countries and to give to special interests to ultimately come back to them. It's like a boomerang. They throw it out and ultimately something will come back to them. Well, we're wrapping this video up because it's getting dark. Now, what I always say is this, and people always ask me, how can we deal with this if we can't change what's going on in Washington? You can't. So let's just be honest. You have to know what's going on. And even though you can't change it, when you know what's going on to the things that you can't do anything about, it helps you decide to do things about the things you can do something about. It's about raising your children right. It's about raising your food and understanding your food system and not having a broke food system because you're raising it or buying it local. It's about getting out of debt and trying to live below your means. So that way when the situation with financial ruin happens, when the crap hits the fan, you will be ready. Those are the things that you can help. Taking your family to a house of God to understand morals and values and have a stability and a groundedness that we have lost in our culture. That's what you can handle. Building a community of like-minded folks, that's what you can handle. See, that's the things that you can change in your own life. Representing God and Christ, representing a good family with stable values and with morals, and having money that you can put up because you're learning to save and live below your means. Those are the things you can help. Learning to buy the things that are good assets and not sinking your money in things that are not good for you. Learning to prepare. When we hear these kind of stories, it should freak us out a little bit, scare us a little bit, but to know that it's going to be okay, because the things we can handle is protecting our families, living sustainable, being more independent, and start building a community of like-minded folks. And that's exactly what we're doing here. So the reason we talk about this is not to scare you. It's to make you think. It's to make you find wisdom and see a common sense approach to the things that even though we can't handle this and change this, and yes, we should vote for better people, we can't change Washington. But if you change your home, you'll change your community. If you change your community, you'll change your town. If you change your town, you'll change your state. If you change your state, we can change the nation. It starts with the home. Build a home that's a safe place for your children, for your spouse. And when you start making those changes, the rest will fall into place. Guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless. Happy homesteading, y'all.